How's it going? McNeil coming to you from the garage. I'm looking at some Jerry's in various stages of finish. Got some teeth chilling in there. Got some curing over there in the, I need to turn that back on in my UV deal. But what I wanted to talk about really quick, and I think I've talked about this before, but I figured I'd do a short video because I probably buried it in the midst of a longer video. And this is a pretty good example of it, so you can see what I'm talking about, because I have these two molds side by side. Now, this is my Jerry mold, which is the last mold that I've made. This is my Eddie Quist mold, which is one of the first molds that I made. And what I wanted to show you was, I'm currently curing a blanket here, but whenever I pour one of these, I'm reminded that when I cast this mask, when I cast this sculpture, the edge of this mold literally went only to the edge of the sculpt, right? So the mask effectively ends here, and when I trim them, you know, I'm literally trimming right into where the end of the mold is. And that's not a terrible thing, but I will tell you, particularly like on this guy, he's got this sort of wound, this bullet wound on his shoulder. You know, this runs right up next to the edge of the mask. And when I made this mold, I really didn't think that through. And what I mean by that is, as you can see, this is what's left of Jerry on my Alana head, right? This is what it looked like when I pulled the mold off. You know, I sculpted it to here, but there's all of this extra stuff down here. And rather than making your mold line to the edge of the clay, if you give yourself a little bit of wiggle room, if you can see it here, this is the mold that came off of there. This is where the Ed head shoulders are, right? Now, I did pack some clay on there. That's why this mold goes that way, because I didn't want it to lock on those shoulders. It won't, but it is more difficult to remove if you put your Hydrocal or Ultracal directly up against your Alana or Ed head. So I put, you know, just a layer of clay there so that it would be easier to pull off and not have to worry about it locking and wiggling it off and all of that stuff. But the point here is, this is the edge of my mask. That is this right here, all the way around, right? You see that? And what this allows me to do is, when I'm dwelling my mask, it allows me to fill this mold level so that your latex level exceeds all the way around, or mostly all the way around, depending on, you know, kind of how your mold is angled when you're dwelling. But it allows that latex to fill it as much as possible while you are dwelling. This mold, on the other hand, literally will only allow you to dwell to somewhere in here, and then you have to be very cognizant of this extra lip on the front and back and brush latex on it. Make sure that you're swirling the latex around on it. Make sure that when you're dumping the latex that you're coating that area, because you want, obviously, this area to be as thick as anything else. On a mold like this, you don't have to worry about that, because you're putting yourself in the situation where that latex level is high enough to dwell beyond the bib and the back of the mask. So one of the things that I've learned in doing this, maybe after 2 or 3 molds, my skull mask, this Eddie Quist mask, were the 2 that I did where I did not exceed the level of the bib of the mask. This is my Evil Ed mold, and as you can see, that line, that's the edge of the mask right there, has a little bit of running room, which allows me to fill that mold to the top. So anyway, that's a tip that I have, particularly if you're somebody that dwells a mask. If you're painting latex in, slush casting, even with slush casting, I think that this is more helpful than this. But I would say, don't run your mold line, or the bottom of your mold, directly to the bottom of your sculpt. You're better off exceeding that line, that bib line, and giving yourself a little bit of leeway, even if it wastes a little bit of latex, and I do have to cut all that off, and there's a lot of extra quote-unquote wasted latex. But the time that it takes and the potential for failure, thin bibs, all of that stuff, this is where I would go every single time. So anyway, I just wanted to give you that as a tip. Hopefully it helps somebody out there that's first learning how to make a mold. If you guys do it differently, I'd love to hear it, but this is what's working for me, and I hope everybody out there is having a nice Sunday afternoon. Talk to you soon.